In this video, I want to talk to you about how much fitness you're going to lose if you're injured. So let's go. Thanks for checking out the channel. My name's John. I'm the head therapist here at John W Sports Injury. Here we want to be doing three simple things. We want to help you to understand your body so that you can get rid of any pain or weaknesses so that you can ultimately be achieving those sport, health and wellness goals. So if that sounds like the type of thing you want to be seeing, make sure you hit that subscribe button. But if you are watching this video, then that means that you are somebody who is taking pride in your health, fitness and wellness. Now, that's a great thing, but the downside to all of this is there is an air of inevitability that somewhere along the journey, we will be hit by injury. Incredibly frustrating process. But one of the most common questions that I get asked, almost the biggest fear around injury, is how much of my fitness that I've trained and worked for am I going to lose during that period of injury? So in this video, I want to be discussing two of the things that I think are key to making sure that we can reduce this, and my rule of thumb around how much recovery it's going to take to get back to pre-injury levels. So let me explain that nothing that I go onto in this video is really based on any scientific research, but this is more my clinical experience and previous experiences. But the rough rule of thumb that I tend to apply is that for every week that we're away from our sport and exercise, it will take that amount of sessions before we return to our state pre-injury. So let me explain that a little bit and give you myself as an example. So one of the main things that I'm into is kind of long distance running. Now, recently I had to have 4 weeks away from any exercise whatsoever, which isn't something that I'd actually recommend, and I'm going to explain later in this video. But I had 4 weeks away. So by my theories, I'm going to need to take 4 sessions at least before I get back to my pre-exercise or pre-injury exercise levels. Now, it's important that we make these like-for-like sessions. So I either run distances of around 12 or 13 miles, and then a couple of times during the week, I'll run 4 miles. So I can't really say that I can go and do 3 or 4 4-mile sessions and then get back to my previous half marathon times. It has to be like-for-like sessions. But by my rule of thumb, I think it's going to take me at least 4 sessions before I can be getting back to those pre-exercise levels. But how can we help this? How can we make this a minimum? Because ultimately that's what we all want. Once we recover from injury, we need to get back as quickly as possible. Well, the two principles that I want you to apply is that we need to protect and we need to progress. So let's talk about those two words. Firstly, protection. So what that means is if we sustained an injury doing our desired sport or exercise, the chances are that we can't necessarily go back straight into that. So whether that's running, whether that's weightlifting, whether that's playing football, you name it, we won't be returning to that straight away. But that's not to mean that we should stop doing everything altogether. And my eyes were really open to this theory and concept once upon a time around the London 2012 Paralympics. And sometimes you see some great bit of advertising that really resonates and hits home with you. And this is what happened to me. I remember seeing a big billboard and it had the Paralympians all across it. Incredible shape, great physique, but they had their various ailments that made them a Paralympian. But the line simply read, "What's your excuse?" And that got me to be thinking, yes, if these people can suffer great disability, hindrances to their training, but can carry on and achieve their goals, then what really is the rest of our excuses? So what I mean by this is if we can't dive straight back into the sport and exercise that we love and ultimately want to get to, what we can do is modify. So if you're looking to return to running, we could try another form of cardio that might be slightly less demanding on our injury. For example, swimming, cycling, or finally, something like a cross trainer is a really nice way to return to running as it can mimic the running action without placing those demands. And those types of principles are things that you can apply to your sport as well. If you're somebody who likes to hit the gym hard, we might be able to go back to the gym, but we modify what we're doing. If we've got a lower limb injury, it might mean that we double down on the upper half and work those. But what this is ultimately going to do is that once we recover fully from that injury, we're going to have less of this loss of that state and we're going to return to our pre-injury exercise level quicker. So the second thing is that we want to progress. So as we're making our way through this recovery phase, we want to be setting ourselves progressive goals. But again, it's really important that we're not trying to dive straight back in to how we were when we're injured. If we take the example of me being a runner looking to run half marathon distances, I mentioned that I think it's going to take me at least 4 half marathons before I'm anywhere near back to my pre-exercise levels. But in those 4 sessions, I don't want to be focused on those times. I know that when I was running before, that might have been my main goal, to reduce that time as much as possible. But it's going to take me at least 4 sessions. So in my first half marathon back, why am I even worried about time? What I want to be doing is taking another metric. And in this example for me as a runner, it might be something like heart rate, which is a good indicator of my fitness. So if I focus on my heart rate rather than my time, and hopefully as these metrics improve, I'll start to see my time come down. But if we go back to that other example of weightlifting, it might be that we can start to return in some of these sessions, but we can't begin to think that we can lift the same amount of weights or the same amount of volume in reps and sets. We need to modify. We need to start at an easier goal, and then we progress that as we get closer to that returning to pre-injury exercise levels. I hope that makes sense. What I want you to do, I think it's so important that we get injured, we know there's an air of inevitability that we're going to lose some of our training benefits. That is just the downside. It's a bit like food that tastes really nice is bad for you most of the time. It's frustrating, but this happens. What we do know is that the body will atrophy, so waste or lose muscle mass about 3 times the speed that it will grow that. So if you spend 3 weeks growing something, working on a training element, the chances are that we might lose this in a week without training those. That's just frustrating. But what we do know is that we can certainly get back to those levels. So that was my rough rule of thumb about the amount of sessions taken per week away from that exercise. But the 2 key components I want you to take is that you have to protect but not stop. Use another form of exercise that doesn't strain your injury to help you reduce this time. And then ultimately you need to find some progressive goals that can start easier so that you can monitor and have some objective data as you move closer to your returning to pre-injury levels. If this has been helpful for you, do me a favour, hit that like button, because that shows me these are the types of videos that you want to be seeing. And as I mentioned, we want to be helping you to understand your body, get rid of weakness and hit your sport and exercise goals. So if you want to keep finding out more information like this, hit that subscribe button, then the bell, and I'll keep you updated when the next video is available. And I'll see you there.